You are listening to the cycling podcast at the Vuelta España in association with Rafa, celebrating the sport and producing the finest cycling clothing since 2004.
Did you enjoy your day in red?
For sure. It was a really nice day, really nice experience, and I really enjoyed this day for sure.
It's a hard day, but are you a little bit disappointed not to keep it, or were you expecting that?
For sure, I a little bit disappointed because you always want to keep this leader jersey. But on the other hand, I'm really proud for what I did yesterday, how fight today, and that's the life. And just keep going and look for the next stages to be again protagonist. That's all.
Hello, my name is Richard Moore. I'm with Daniel Freeb.
Hello, Richard.
Hello, Daniel.
An exasperated Daniel Freeb.
Well, 5 or 10 minutes ago, we were very relaxed, weren't we? We were sitting out on the terrace overlooking a beach.
An Asturian beach.
Restaurant.
And
shall we name
now
and shame the restaurant?
Frito Mar, that well-known Irish eatery.
By the sea, beautiful seafood restaurant. And we were sitting on the terrace there and we ordered fish and we're told you can't eat fish outside.
It's like the Da Vinci Code, isn't it? Actually getting them to bring what we actually ordered. Anyway,
it's been an ordeal. But anyway, we're on the way now to getting a meal.
To think that 10 minutes ago we were talking about how we were going to spend 5 minutes of the podcast debating the point that I made earlier about whether really there's any need for any more than one kind of fish.
Well, ordering the fish is very complicated, but we're curious as to why you're not allowed to eat fish on the terrace outside. Is it
seagulls?
Do seagulls swoop down and attack your plate or something? I don't know. Anyway, it was an exciting stage of the Vuelta today. We should probably turn our thoughts to that. So to get the comprehensive overview, over to Lionel Burney for the tale of the Etapa.
Thanks, Richard. Well, I saw you on television lurking around at the finish line after the stage, looking busy. But here is the tale of the Etapa, just in case you missed anything. Today was stage 10, 188.7 kilometres, the longest of the race so far, and it was an absolute thriller with a captivating battle on the climb up to the lake at Covadonga. The headline is that Nairo Quintana won the stage and reclaimed the red jersey from David de la Cruz, and he also took a big step towards winning the second Grand Tour of his career, although there's still a long way to go, of course. At one stage today, Robert Gesink of Lotto NL Jumbo looked a good bet for the stage win, but as the GC battle kicked off behind him, the Dutchman's advantage began to look vulnerable. Of the big four in this race, Quintana, Chris Froome, Alberto Contador and Alejandro Valverde, it was Froome who appeared to be in difficulty first. He lost contact with the other favourites, although the way he rode later on suggested he was perhaps measuring his effort, not getting drawn into Quintana's accelerations. Quintana and Contador went away from Froome and Valverde before the final 5 kilometres. Quintana then dropped Contador and began to close in on Gesink. Froome then began to recover some of his losses, catching first Valverde and then dragging Valverde past the fading Contador. But by this time Quintana had gone, and at the line the Colombian had gained 25 seconds plus the stage winner's time bonus on Froome. Gesink dug deep to finish second on the stage, Froome was third, and Omar Freile of Dimension Data, who impressed as part of the break, was fourth. Contador lost 1 minute and 5 seconds to Quintana, which is very damaging at this stage. The red jersey, De La Cruz, battled hard and came in 3:15 down, and he's now slipped to 7th overall. So that means Movistar have the top 2 places overall, with Quintana 57 seconds ahead of Valverde. Froome is third, another second back, and then there's daylight. Esteban Chavez is 4th at 2:09 and Contador is up to 5th but further adrift in terms of time at 2:54. So Valverde has taken the lead in the points competition, Omar Freile leads the King of the Mountains and Quintana leads the combined classification, although Froome will wear the white jersey, when the race resumes. Tomorrow's a rest day and a chance for everyone to digest the implications of today's stage.
Thanks for that, Lionel. Well, it was a thrilling stage, and I should have said that at the very start of the episode there, before our little rant about fish, we heard from David de la Cruz, who was in the red jersey of race leader today, and it was one day in red, and I think most people expected that. Very emotional winner of the stage on Sunday. Here's our starters, our fish, our indoor fish. Gracias. As Lionel told us there, I mean, that was a thrilling stage won by Nairo Quintana. It witnessed another sort of yo-yo performance by Chris Froome, although perhaps it wasn't a yo-yo performance. Perhaps it was very steady. Perhaps everybody else was yo-yoing. We just don't know.
It's the rope-a-dope, isn't it? it's not even the rope-a-dope. It's kind of laying on the canvas, knocked out, and then rising miraculously.
It's like a character in a horror film who just will not die, you know. And a terrifying opponent in that way, because even if you've dropped Froome, you just don't know when he's going to come back, when that, you know, he's going to twitch back to life again, and it, you know, that makes him quite an unusual and dangerous opponent for the guys who are up the road.
Yeah, and there's obviously a very precise, studied physiological explanation for this. I would suggest Chris Froome keeps his cars quite close to his chest, and certainly Tim Kerrison, his coach, does at Team Sky. But I would suggest that they know down to the exact wattage, at what point, at what level he wants to start a climb, at what number he wants to start a climb, and exactly why this makes sense, and exactly what point on the climb he's going to up his wattage and start to move through the field.
Well, is he upping his wattage, or is he just riding at a consistent pace all the way up? That was what would be so fascinating to know. I mean, we spoke about this the other day, that Contador is the racer. He's the guy that will react to other people moving. Froome has become really good at not reacting. Yes, you can have one of my croquettes, Daniel.
Are they fishy?
No, anyway, they're not. Contador reacts to Quintana attacking. Froome doesn't, and that takes a certain courage and patience. And to elaborate a bit on this, let's hear from David Lopez, his teammate, who was one of the two riders with him, along with Peter Kennaugh, as he was dropped on the climb. Here is David Lopez. He did a very important job for Chris at the bottom of the climb there when he was just off the back a little bit. Was that expected that Chris would drop off the back a bit, because he does tend to ride the climbs, you know, starting slow and getting faster?
Yeah, because it's quite a long climb, no? And we expect that when we start we'll go full gas from the start. So we try to keep the pace from the start, from the bottom to the top. And I think we keep a good distance. And it was a good day for us in the first real mountain top finish.
So you were expecting Froome really to maybe drop off the back early on in the climb?
Yeah, the thing is that he don't know how he's at the moment, no? It's the second Grand Tour this year after all these Olympics, travel, jet lag and everything. So he prefers not to go and play with Contador and Nairo and everyone in the attacks. He prefers to keep his pace and see how he's feeling. And it's still a long way for the Vuelta. We also have a time trial. So we are really confident to try to win this race.
So it's a key thing in that situation not to panic.
Yeah, it's hard, no? When you see the group going, 20 seconds, 30 seconds. But we see we are keeping a high pace, and also the group in the front is losing riders. So we knew we are having a good job, and at the end we see the result.
So from what Lopez said there, Daniel, it's a deliberate strategy. They knew that Froome was going to drop off the back at the bottom of the climb, or close to the bottom of the climb, and you know, he talked about how difficult it is to see the group disappearing up the road and getting 30-40 seconds, but the importance of exercising patience. The other curious thing is Leopold Koenig, who is still 6th overall. He didn't wait with Froome. He very much rode his own race, and again we suspect that Koenig's on his way away from Team Sky, but it was odd to see him stay with some of the favourites while Froome was apparently struggling behind.
Yeah, I mean, you say that Froome perhaps rode an equal pace all the way up the Lagos de Covadonga. It's also worth considering whether the way that these climbs are usually ridden these days in Grand Tours, so a very fast kind of almost a lead out into the bottom of the climb, and then very fast first half of the climb. Probably physiologically it doesn't really make sense. You think about the way guys ride a time trial, they ride it after a warm-up, and to go into the red and then which is probably what is happening most of the time in major mountain stages in Grand Tours. Guys are going into the red, then they're coming back. It doesn't make an awful lot of sense, but it's what you have to do to follow the wheel. So it seems to me, and this is not a new thing, certainly Team Sky, you know, have done it since 2012 and probably before then. We remember when Bradley Wiggins won the Tour de France, talking about wattages that he was going to hit and ignoring attacks. And I think Froome has probably just taken that to the next level, really, and is completely cocooned and blinkered and riding his own climb.
I mean, part of it as well is him being really unsure of his state of form and fitness, and Lopez said that as well, that, you know, he's not at the level that he was at the Tour, and so part of it is riding more within his limits perhaps than he did at the Tour. And yeah, you're right. The most vivid example of that I can remember from the 2012 Tours when Cadel Evans launched a attack from a long way out, and they just let him sort of hang out in front and kept a consistent pace behind him, and knew that they would reel him in. I mean, it's obvious that when attacks go on the climb, wow, what's this, Daniel?
Cavada.
It's obvious that when attacks go on the climb and riders follow, they will go into the red and they will pay for it later. And we did see Alberto Contador pay for his effort to.
So what's the point?
Follow.
Why do they do it? People have been doing it since cycling was invented, but why? Why? It's nonsense, isn't it? They should all stop.
It's racing, I mean, I know you're right, but we wouldn't. I think we enjoy the racing aspect. We enjoy the attacks.
We do, but
they don't want people to ride up a mountain staring at their power meter the whole way.
No, but
up.
these guys get to the bottom of the climb and they're thinking about winning the race, not about entertaining us, not about providing talking points for our podcast.
Well, they've done it. It's something like Valverde as well. He'd been dropped, but when he obviously paced himself a little bit better as well, and he's held on to second overall. Valverde, and a really phenomenal ride, and he could be riding into the top 10 and at least on his third Grand Tour in a season.
It's interesting you mentioned Leopold Koenig. I spoke to him this morning in, where were we? Lugones or Lugones?
On the outskirts of Oviedo.
Outside Oviedo. He was 6th overall at that point, and I put it to him that he could play the same role for Team Sky that Valverde had been playing for Nairo Quintana and Movistar, and he said, yeah, that's exactly what he had in mind, but I really can't see him riding in the same vein as Alejandro Valverde, which is not to say that Alejandro Valverde's role and his riding as a sort of decoy, as a deputy leader for Nairo Quintana has really paid off in the past, has it? That it's been a bit of a toothless duo in the past, Quintana and Valverde. It's worked to good effect, and they've dovetailed to good effect on a couple of occasions, but not very many.
I'm always curious about the relationship between those two, and I did watch them at the finish today, and Valverde went over and embraced Quintana, and there seemed to be quite a warm exchange between them at the top. So that was nice to see. But yeah, of course, I mean, Movistar is more Valverde's team than it is Quintana's team, and you get the impression that all things being equal, Valverde would be the guy that they ride for. But what we're seeing here is the Quintana that we really wanted to see at the Tour de France, and he's attacked and dropped Froome. It's kind of the Tour de France in reverse, isn't it? Because at the Tour we always felt that Quintana was coming back and may finally overhaul Froome in the final week. Here it's the other way around. That time trial towards the end, 37 kilometres, suits Froome down to the ground. And notice that Quintana says that he thinks he'll need 3 minutes on Froome ahead of that time trial. I'm not sure about 3 minutes, but certainly a minute, which is more or less what he has now, is probably not enough.
I would agree, Richard. We talked in previous episodes about whether the Vuelta climbs had suited Froome, or they'd suited Quintana, or they'd suited other riders. I think one thing that today definitively proved is that Quintana is just in better form than Chris Froome, and he's certainly closer to his peak ability than Chris Froome. But the Lagos de Covadonga is a really interesting climb, and it reminds me a little bit of Horsecam, which is a famous Tour de France climb, in the sense that it's very variable, and there are an awful lot of, there are very, very steep ramps, and there are false flats, and it really upsets a rider's rhythm. You might assume that it would suit Chris Froome better, because we've come to know Nairo Quintana as a bit of a diesel who likes to find his own rhythm and just really plough up the climb in that rhythm. But today, whether it suited Froome or whether it suited Quintana, it really did bear out that Quintana is in better form than Froome, and I suspect that will be confirmed over the next week certainly, and again at Peña Carbarga.
Eurosport, the home of cycling.
Thank you very much to Eurosport for sponsoring Cycling Podcast along with Rafa. A little reminder that tomorrow, Tuesday, on the rest day, I'm doing a Facebook Live event with Ian Boswell sometime in the afternoon, probably between 4 and 6 p.m. our time. I'm waiting to hear the precise time for that, but we'll try and give plenty of notice. You can watch that on the Eurosport Facebook page, and it'll be a sort of a chat with Ian Boswell and a bit of a Q&A, so do log on and ask us lots of questions. It should be good fun. We did couple of them at the Tour de France. They went very well, so please do tune in. And it'll remain on the Facebook page to watch afterwards. Speaking of our Eurosport sponsorship, they of course sponsor our Peddler de Charme Award, and we did run a poll today for Peddler de Charme for the first week, and there were quite a few nominations, which led to the poll. Luis Angel Mate, Cofidis, Omar Fraile, is that how you pronounce his name? Fraile. Omar Fraile, the Dimension data rider, who's been in a lot of breaks this week. Luis Leon Sanchez, also been in a lot of breaks. Astana rider, and Jan Bakelant's also been in a lot of breaks. You need to do more than just be in breaks, however, to win Peddler de Charme. And it was very close, actually, but Fraile was the winner with 33% of the vote. So I'll go and find Omar Fraile and give him his Peddler de Charme t-shirt. I'm actually going to give one to Luis Angel Mate as well, because I spotted him on Sunday stopping to give his bidon after the finish to some kids, and then posing for pictures with them for quite a long time. He was also very charming on the podium today, picking out flowers from his bouquet to give to the podium girls, and then
he was on the podium because
was he most aggressive rider today? Is that why he was on the podium?
Could well be.
I think it was.
He tends to get a lot of riders
Spanish
from Cofidis
riders.
On the podium in the Tour of Spain,
sponsor,
in the Vuelta a España, yeah.
He's ridden really well, Mate, and he's always smiling. So I was impressed by him, and I think I'm gonna unilaterally award him Peddler de Charme as well. So Fraile and Mate will get their Peddler de Charme t-shirts in the next couple of days. And I have to say that Fraile's nomination or his support was there were a couple of nice moments between him and Mate. We tweeted earlier when they sort of chinked water bottles upon being caught, and Fraile was also very diligent in disposing of his litter from energy gels and bars and so on, so well done to him. The other big bit of action in the stage today was there was a big breakaway that most days somebody from the break has gone on to win. They didn't get so much time. It was a big group, went quite late in the stage. They had 3-4 minutes, really no more than that. Movistar were working hard in the front, so were Ethics Quickstep, helping them out a little bit, but Movistar were really keeping the pace pretty high. But in that break were Robert Gesink and Joe Dombrowski, two riders who might have fancied winning the stage. Gesink was the last one to be swept up by Quintana. In fact, he ended up second on the stage. It was a very good ride by a rider who at one point was tipped as maybe a future Grand Tour winner, wasn't he, a few years ago. He's had a difficult few years, and it was good to see him on the attack today. I spoke to Robert Gesink at the finish. Here he is, and then immediately after Gesink we'll hear from Joe Dombrowski, who was also in that break with Pierre Roland, his Canadale teammate, Canadale Drapac teammate, who was also quite aggressive on the climb. And Dombrowski, I'm sure, will be seeking out other opportunities in the third week. Here is Gesink, followed by Dombrowski. That was a very brave effort. Did you think you had the stage there?
Not until you crossed the line, eh? So I knew it was going to be close because the cooperation in the group was not so good. So I thought it was going to be close, and
it also seemed to be a day when behind they weren't quite so willing as they've been other days to let the group get a big lead. It was hovering around 3-4 minutes.
In our group, everybody was already thinking about the stage and not about taking enough time to be able to win the stage. And I really have to thank my colleague Victor. He was pulling all day full gas, and he did a great job. We did everything we could. I did what I could. So Quintana was stronger. I guess it's the big guys versus the little guys, and uphill the little guys have a bit small advantage. Huh?
You'll have another go though, I'm sure.
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah, I mean rest day first. I said I want to try in the second half of the Vuelta. So. From now on, I'll try, of course, yeah.
Well, you said you were going to try and get in the break today, and you did.
It was a little bit of a crazy start. It took, there's a couple of crashes before the break went. So at one point we were sort of self-neutralized. If there's a crash that big, then I think the bunch all has a bit of sense and we can slow down for a bit. I don't think the break went till 70 or 80k in. It was a good move for us because we had 3 guys in. And overall, I think we rode well. I mean, me and Pierre didn't have the legs to win the stage, but wow, GC guys ended up winning the day. But
you were doing a lot on the flat. Every time I looked up, you seemed to be on the front, out on the flat. Was Pierre the guy that you were really thinking of for the stage today?
Either one of us, we wanted to pull through, but not hard, just because, sometimes you can kind of show your cards. It's like on the last climb, you don't want to be on the front because you're showing your cards that way, but you're also showing your cards on the flat if you just sit on the back. Especially if, for Pierre and I to be in that mood to sit on the back, people are like, okay, we know you're not suffering that bad,
And there were I spoke to Robert Gesink, there were quite a few potential winners in that group. Did that mean that you were all quite cagey as well around each other?
When you're in a break like that, if you are one of those potential winners, I think it's best to just roll through, but not really put any power into the pedals, just because it keeps everybody happy and civil. And I remember in the Giro, I was in a move with a bunch of GC guys. I don't know if you really call it a breakaway, because it was basically, I was the only non-GC guy. And they're like, sit on, don't pull. But sometimes it can be harder back there because they don't want you there, and you're always getting gapped off, so it's easier just to roll through and be part of it. So I think we rode good overall, and then, Andrew was coming up around 3K to go, so I sat up a bit and waited, did a pull.
You had a bit of a ringside seat as well when the Quintana Contador group came past. You stayed with them for a bit. What was that like? Did you get a sense then of what kind of level they're at?
For sure. You see it in the Vuelta so far. I haven't really been climbing with those guys, but in the Giro, if I stayed in the GC group, I could be around Nibali and whoever. I'm not at their level, but I can hang on for a while and, maybe someday.
Well, this is still early in the race for you, Joe. You come good in the third week.
Yeah, if Grand Tours were 6 weeks long, I might be able to win one.
Whoever you are, wherever you ride, whatever the reason, Rafa exists to improve your ride with the finest kit, inspiring stories, and vibrant clubhouses and communities all over the world. See rafa.cc for more information.
Thank you very much to Rafa for sponsoring the Cycling Podcast. I think you were going to say something there about the Cannondale Drapac team, Daniel. We heard from Dombrowski just before that break.
No, just they've got a very strong team at this Vuelta a España. Pretty much all of their riders have been in breaks at some point in the race. We've had Ben King, Simon Clark's had to go about 3 times, Joe Dombrowski today, Pierre Rolland. And they really desperately need that stage win, don't they? Because it's not been the most successful of
Simon Clark
seasons.
Looked hurt at the finish. He finished quite far down, and I saw him walking down to the team car with his arms strapped as though he'd broken his collarbone. I'm not saying that he had, but he looked in quite a lot of pain. Quite a few crashes today. Quintana came off, didn't he? He had ripped his jersey at the back. We're not really sure what happened there, but there were quite a few crashes. Markel Irizar, friend of the podcast, the Basque rider who rides for Trek Segafredo, lost a few teeth, and unfortunately he's out the Vuelta.
I spoke to Pete Kennaugh at the finish, and he was maligning how aggressive riders are, even in the neutral zone. Even here at the Vuelta, it's not the Tour de France. The level isn't quite the same, and the pressure isn't quite the same. However, we have heard various complaints about racing being very chaotic, even in the early, the first hour of races. So I was disappointing to see Irizar go, and but quite badly injured, I think, a couple of those riders.
Yeah, no, there was nasty crashes, and a few riders who came across the finish line had cuts, and obviously some people quite badly hurt today. I think it was quite frantic, as Joe Dombrowski said. It took a long time for the break to be established, so I think it was quite fast and furious in the opening stages.
And without the sprinters here, there are an awful lot of riders, kind of opportunistic riders who are really here desperately trying to latch onto a breakaway. With so many summit finishes, they know that that's their only reason to be here, and that's probably one reason why it is so chaotic. We'll also just say, Rich, that we touched on the Lagos de Covadonga, what makes it so special. I think today, again, really demonstrated why the Lagos de Covadonga deserves its billing as an iconic climb in the Vuelta. Very, very beautiful. It's been a fairly regular fixture since 1983. 1983, Marino Lejarreta won. Bernardino was on his way to winning the Vuelta that year, and he was probably the star of the stage that year. But Covadonga, a really iconic climb in the Vuelta. should be really on the route as much as possible. I spoke to the race organizer or the race director, Javier Guillen, this morning. He was singing its praises, saying that it is the Vuelta's Alpe d'Huez. And fantastic crowds again, weren't there?
Fantastic crowds and well behaved again. There were a few spectators running alongside the crowds, but I noticed they were pretty swiftly dealt with by the police. And that's been good to see. No one in costumes. Nobody dressing up, appearing to want to steal the limelight from the riders. There's been none of that, has there? Hang on. What do you mean apart from me? What do you mean?
Apart from some of your get-up, obviously, apart from when you're wearing very stylish gear from our sponsors, Rafa.
I was wearing a lovely Rafa top today that you're now wearing, Daniel, because you were cold outside.
No, you are right, Rich. And Spain has sort of lost its image to a certain extent as a kind of traditional
and yet
hardcore cycling nation, but you really get a sense when you're on the Vuelta that the crowds are very knowledgeable
and respectful. And Spain, if you go back to the 80s and the 70s, the crowds in Spain were quite notorious for being quite violent towards overseas riders. I mean, Robert Miller experienced that. Bernardino, you mentioned earlier, experienced that. It was a very partisan.
And they are very partisan. I mean, you'll have noticed, Rich, at the starts in the morning,
the Movistar
by
bus is
far,
crazy,
it's absolutely besieged, the Movistar bus, as is the Tinkoff bus for Alberto Contador, and very few people around all the other buses.
Absolutely, it's quite incredible. What a contrast. Any other performances catch your eye today, Daniel? I mean, Esteban Chavez, we've been the smiling assassin. He stayed with Froome for a bit today when Froome came steaming up from behind, but couldn't live with him, and he's fallen away a little bit. He's still fourth overall, still, in touching distance, 2 minutes 9 seconds. The top three, Quintana, Valverde and Froome, are all within a minute. The others are falling away a little bit. Contador again sort of overextended himself a bit and paid for that, and he's down, he's up to fifth, about 2:54. Koenig's still there, hovering around in sixth. Free agent Koenig, freelancing here at the Vuelta. I think Simon Yates still there. He's up to 8th overall. I spoke to him at the start actually this morning. Shall we hear from Simon Yates?
So did I.
Will we hear from Simon Yates? Why not? I spoke to him at the start. Let's hear from Simon Yates. Here's Simon Yates. Simon, we're 10 days into the Vuelta for the first rest day. How are the legs?
Okay, as expected really. Getting pretty tired now, we're getting into it. But yeah, one more big day today and then we get a bit of a rest, so.
I guess it's hard to tell from the stage so far, how guys are going to go in the high mountains. Is today going to be a real sort of learning experience for you in that regard as well?
Oh, I don't know. We'll have to see how the race pans out really. I've done a lot of races before with hilltop finishes, and it's not really something new to me. We'll just have to see how the legs are on the day.
Adam told us throughout the Tour de France that he was there for a stage win and not interested in GC. Obviously things pan out differently. What did you come here to the Vuelta? What were your ambitions coming here? You've got your stage win obviously, but were you also thinking GC as well? I
was thinking GC, but not for myself. I was thinking to help Esteban. At the moment, to do that, I have to be there as well. Yeah, I'm still up there. I'm not too far away. But yeah, the goal is just to help Esteban.
The way that Adam rode the Tour and his result there, did that make you sort of rethink things in terms of your progress and what you might be capable of in the near future?
No, not really. I think this has always been the plan to ride GC at the Grand Tours. Yeah, it takes time. It takes a bit of patience and just can never be too stressed about trying to progress too quickly, and I think I'm slowly doing that and just try and continue as we are.
I mentioned just before we started recording there, you're living in Andorra now, living at altitude. A lot of riders tend to be living there. Has that made a difference to you?
Yes and no. I really like it there more for the climbs, if I'm honest. I don't actually stay that high at altitude. I think it's quite a hard thing to do if you are always there year round. But yeah, the climbs are really, really good there, and I don't think there's many places in the world where you have such a succession of climbs everywhere in such a small space. And yeah, I really enjoy it there.
Esteban is obviously the leader here. Tell us what he's like. I mean, he seems to be always smiling, always in good spirits. Is that what he's like behind the scenes as well? Yeah, very laid back guy, which I obviously prefer as well because I'm not one for the stress. He's a real nice guy. He's an easy guy to work for as well, especially when he's so appreciative of the work that you do for him. So I'm looking forward to putting my neck on the line for him. Can he win the Vuelta? I think so. We have to be patient, but we see. There's a lot of strong guys in front of us, a lot of strong guys behind us. We'll see. So that was Simon Yates.
Now, you mentioned Green Edge, Rich, and Chavez, and we've sung Chavez's praises in recent weeks and months, and said what style quality he has, and then also the Yates brothers, what fantastic talents they are. But we've also mentioned how Orica Bike Exchange have really made this move towards becoming a general classification team. They've signed Carlos Verona, they've signed Roman Kreuziger, they've had to sacrifice Michael Matthews. But I think today really underlines the challenge that they face. I mean, that team has been very successful over the past couple of years, but you know, if Chavez is a step below Quintana and Froome, which he certainly looks to be on the basis of the last couple of stages, then they're going to have to think very hard about what they do with those riders, what they do with those resources. Maybe that the Giro d'Italia is their best bet.
You can have all the Kreuzigers, because they've signed Roman Kreuziger as well. They can have all the Kreuzigers, the Veronas, the Plazas. You need somebody who's capable of winning a Grand Tour.
You need a goal scorer, don't you?
You need somebody, and there are very few riders capable of winning a Grand Tour. So Roman Kreuziger, an interesting tweet from him, singing the praises, heaping praise on Chris Froome for the way that he rode the climb, and for knowing his limits. The implication or the inference that some drew was that there was a criticism in there of Contador, who is obviously currently his team leader. We should leave things there, Daniel. We'll not be doing a podcast tomorrow because it's a rest day. But as I mentioned earlier, I am doing a Facebook Live event with Ian Boswell, which should be really good. He's a great talker. Anyone who listened to our Young Americans Friends special earlier this year, and remember, you can become a friend of the podcast at thecyclingpodcast.com. But we did a Friends special with him, Joe Dombrowski, and Larry Warbass, and they're three very articulate, eloquent young guys. So that should be really good. Do tune in and give us your questions. I think our main course is on the way, Daniel.
Let's see what it is.
Yeah, let's go, shall we? Let's eat. Okay, thanks very much, Daniel.
Thanks, Richard.